This is Zara Recaps. Today, Zara Recaps is going to explain drama, romance, and horror movie called Hostel. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. In a post-apocalyptic world, Juliette travels through a desolate landscape as she searches for anything that can aid her survival. When she discovers a cluster of deserted vehicles, she meticulously examines every corner and even inspects the fuel tanks, but unfortunately finds nothing of use. After gazing at the horizon for a moment, she continues driving and eventually halts at a gas station. With a gun in hand, she searches through all the shelves for any food to no avail. Suddenly, the ceiling begins to shake, and the growling of a creature known as a reaper echoes from the upper floor, prompting Juliette to quickly leave. While driving, she contacts her friend Harry, who is part of her survival group. Juliette informs him that her battery is running low and that she'll take a quicker route to return to their base. Moments later, she stops the car when she spots an abandoned RV and takes a closer look, only to find a severely injured man. Holding him at gunpoint, she demands to see his wound and asks where the reaper went, to which the man replies that he's locked it inside the RV. He also mentions there are cans of food in the RV before asking her to end his suffering, but Juliette simply tells him she needs to conserve bullets and insists he reveal his wound. Juliette then enters the RV and confronts the reaper, causing the vehicle to shake violently as she struggles, but ultimately kills the creature with a shot. When she emerges, the man is dead. After gathering all the supplies she can find, Juliette returns to the road and drives while looking at a photograph of herself with a man. Suddenly, the wind blows the picture away, distracting Juliette as she tries to catch it. This distraction causes her to lose control of the car, which flips several times before landing upside down. Juliette loses consciousness and dreams of her life before the apocalypse. On a rainy day, she visited an art gallery but couldn't grasp the painting. Then, the gallery owner Jack, who was also the man from the picture, approached her. He could tell she didn't comprehend art, so Juliette confessed she had come inside to seek shelter from the rain and get some complimentary food. Jack found her amusing and shared a drink with her while explaining how to appreciate the beauty in the painting. Back in the present, Juliette awakens to find her leg fractured and trapped in the seat. It's also dark outside, indicating the reapers will emerge soon, and she can't defend herself because her gun has fallen out of the car and is out of reach. Juliette attempts to move her leg, but the pain is too intense. Instead, she tries to use the radio, only to discover that it isn't working. Using a stick and some wire, Juliette reaches for the gun and manages to nudge it slightly, but unfortunately, her makeshift tool breaks before she can retrieve it. Then another flashback begins, showing how Jack left in the middle of the gallery opening to grab a bite with Juliette. She agreed to go to his apartment, and she was astonished to see how exquisite and costly everything was. She also discovered his drawings, which showcased his exceptional artistic skill. While enjoying wine and cheese, Jack divulged all his family drama and how he managed the inheritance. Juliette mentioned she had no family, but she found it difficult to open up, and Jack's probing questions made her uneasy, so she opted to depart. In the present, Juliette resolves to endure the pain and uses a pipe to extricate her fractured leg. Then she makes a tourniquet and cleans the wound with some alcohol before painfully setting the bone back into place. A new memory begins, during which Juliette went to a bar with a random man. She noticed that Jack was also in the bar, but she ignored him. When Juliette left with the guy, Jack followed her and discovered the man paying Juliette in exchange for some substance. The guy also tried to kiss her, but Juliette angrily rejected him. Then Jack continued to follow Juliette on the train and eventually arrived in a very shady neighborhood. Juliette bought more substance from a guy, confirming she was a dealer. At that moment, Jack revealed himself, so Juliette allowed him to accompany her into the building, where she had to pay another dealer before being able to enter her apartment. Inside, Jack discovered how impoverished Juliette was and offered his help, but Juliette snapped, saying she wasn't a charity case. She tried to kick him out, but Jack refused to leave, so Juliette grabbed an injection to reveal she was also an addict. This caused Jack to leave. Back in the present, Juliette manages to make an improvised cast with items from the car. Then she works on fixing the radio, but unfortunately, nobody answers her call. At that moment, she hears a reaper approaching, so she quickly crawls out and grabs her gun before hiding in her car. Juliette stays silent while the reaper wanders too close to the vehicle. Suddenly, the radio comes alive with Harry's voice. The reaper hears it and moves toward her, so Juliette has no choice but to throw the radio out of the car. The creature finds the radio and throws it away before approaching the car, but just as it's about to get inside, it hears a noise in the distance and goes away. Afterward, Juliette replaces the bullets in the gun while going through another memory. One evening, Juliette was beaten up and went to Jack's apartment for help. Jack didn't judge her or ask questions. He gently cleaned her up, tended her wounds, and left her to rest. The next morning, they had breakfast together, and Juliette asked if she could go for a walk. Jack guessed she actually needed a fix, so an offended Juliette attempted to leave, only to find the door locked. When Jack told her he wouldn't let her go until she was sober, Juliette became enraged and started breaking Jack's belongings as she screamed. Jack waited for an opening and then embraced Juliette, comforting her with a kiss. In the present, Juliette finds some glow sticks and throws them outside to see if any reapers are nearby. She doesn't see any, so she comes out and retrieves the radio. Suddenly, she hears a strange noise and tenses up. She throws the glow sticks in various various directions until she spots a Reaper on top of her car. Juliette immediately shoots it before rushing back into the car, where she waits for the creature to reappear. However, the Reaper surprises her from behind by pulling the window cover off. A terrified Juliette tries to move, but the Reaper grabs her leg, so she retaliates by starting the car and pressing the accelerator, causing the wheels to injure the creature. The Reaper runs away, and Juliette tries to shoot it, but she misses. While she's looking out, the Reaper sneaks inside through the opposite window and growls, startling Juliette into shooting it. After the Reaper escapes, Juliette attempts to fix her radio, but her hands are trembling, and there isn't any more alcohol she could use to relax. Another flashback begins, showing that Jack and Juliette became a couple and moved to a pristine new house together. Juliette had been very anxious during the move, so Jack touched her face to make her smile. Then he gave her a tour of the house and mentioned one room was for their future children, which made Juliette very uneasy. Jack also wondered if she would ever say that she adored him, but Juliette told him he already knew. Back to the present, Juliette fixes the radio and contacts Harry, although she can't hear him well. She tells him what happened and asks for help, but after Harry speaks something about a signal, the connection is lost. Juliette searches the car and finds a box with a beacon, so now she'll have to read the guide to activate it. As she works, she thinks about the day she discovered she was pregnant. The couple was very happy to see the positive result on the test, but unfortunately 9 months later the baby died during childbirth, and the couple had to go home to an empty nursery. In the present, Juliette manages to make the beacon function. Then she barricades the windows just in time for the creature to return. After seeing her through the windshield, it moves to the window and tries to push the cover, so Juliette pushes it down with her feet. The Reaper decides to start hitting the car instead, and at that moment Juliette gets a call from Harry, who tells her they'll save her soon and reminds her to use light on Reapers. Juliette knows this, but her torch is broken. Suddenly, she hears a noise and turns to discover that the creature has smashed the windshield, so now it's advancing toward her from the front. Thankfully, Juliette can now switch on the headlights, and the brightness scares the creature away. Afterward, Juliette calls Harry, who has unfortunate news. They will not retrieve her until sunrise because it is too hazardous to venture out that far at night. This triggers another memory. Since the loss of the baby, things had been strained between Jack and Juliette, and one day she simply fled. Jack managed to locate her, and an argument ensued, during which Juliette confessed she didn't truly desire a child, and Jack coerced her into it. Furious, Jack stormed away from the car, intending to take the subway alone. He blamed Juliette's previous addiction for the baby's death and ended their relationship. Back in the present, Juliette hears an engine nearby and starts honking the horn to attract attention. Two men on a motorcycle stop next to the car, and one of them enters, claiming he'll assist her, but he turns out to be a cannibal who intends to harm her. As Juliette struggles to prevent him from stabbing her, the Reaper returns and pulls the guy out to crush his skull. The companion quickly departs on the bike, and Juliette watches the Reaper feed on the body. Another flashback reveals that after the argument, Juliette went to a bar to get intoxicated and ignored all the calls she received from Jack. At that moment, she saw on TV that there was a chemical incident at the subway station, which claimed over 30 lives. Then she received a call from an unknown number informing her that Jack was injured during the incident, so she rushed to the hospital. In the present, Juliette grabs her gun and contemplates self-erasure, but the memories persist. When she arrived at the hospital, she discovered Jack couldn't speak anymore, but he still communicated. He touched her face with his unique gesture through the curtain and then used a board to convey, "I love you." For the first time, Juliette replied, "Same here." Jack also made her promise she would never give up, and that prompts present Juliette to lower the gun. Determined to uphold her promise, Juliette takes a flare along with 2 gas containers and exits the car. She proceeds to drench one container with gasoline and then lights the flare, waving it around to attract the Reaper's attention. When the creature begins approaching her, Juliette walks backward and waits for the Reaper to reach the container to shoot it, triggering an explosion. However, the Reaper flees just in time. Juliette scans her surroundings to locate it, but the creature suddenly appears behind her and forces her to drop the gun. Terrified, Juliette pushes those slender arms away and retreats into the car, only for the Reaper to seize her injured leg and cause her to bleed. As Juliette desperately reaches for her gun, the Reaper pulls her out of the car and hurls her to the ground. She then shoots the creature twice, causing it to collapse. Once the creature stops moving, Juliette cries and recalls the day she returned to the hospital only to find out they had taken Jack away because he had passed away, causing her to experience a breakdown. In the present, morning finally arrives, and the Reaper starts to stir, but Juliette is out of bullets. Suddenly, the creature climbs on top of her, but instead of attacking, it tenderly touches her face, making her realize this is Jack. This triggers a memory of the day they met. Jack spoke about fate bringing people together, and to demonstrate his interest, he closed the gallery to leave with her. In the present, Juliette embraces Jack while finally confessing her love for him. After loading a fresh bullet into the gun, she presses their heads together to conclude their lives and journey into the afterlife together.